Einstein, Isaac Newton, Archimedes, Pythagoras.
All giants in the world of mathematics, but there's a lesser known one who stands out for having to overcome huge personal obstacles for making his mark. And then he made a remarkable discovery. This is the story of French mathematician Henri Poincaré. Poincaré was born in 1854 in Nancy, Lorraine province in France, into a family of high achievers. His father was a professor of medicine at the University of Nancy, and his cousin Raymond Poincaré was a French Prime Minister. Growing up as a youngster, Henry was a sickly child and developed diphtheria at age 5 and suffered severe short-sightedness. To compensate for his lengthy absentees from school, his gifted mother homeschooled him, but learning was a struggle. When finally reaching university to study mathematics, his vision had gotten so bad he couldn't see the blackboard from his seat. So out of necessity, the clever and determined young man that he was learned to memorise lectures and perform calculations in his head. In spite of his poor sight, he achieved his first mathematics degree at age 21 and his doctorate 4 years later. From here on, Poincaré, who was once described as clumsy and absent-minded by an earlier teacher, advanced to an entirely new level. In 1882, King Oscar II of Sweden offered a prize for anyone who could come up with a solution to the famed three-body problem, which for 200 years had eluded all the top mathematicians. Enter Poincaré. This was the perfect task for him as he laboured over the dilemma for 3 years until finally formulating a solution. However, days before its much-awaited publication in a prestigious mathematics journal, Poincaré discovered the unthinkable. His solution contained an error. He quickly contacted the judging panel and the publication of the paper was delayed. Despite the flaw, his formula was awarded the prize, as the judging panel, consisting of some of the best mathematical minds of the century, considered his formula to be of such importance that its publication would inaugurate a new era in the history of celestial mechanics. Following this success, Poincaré went into overdrive, publishing over 500 papers and 30 books, covering everything from mechanics, physics and mathematics through to theoretical astronomy. He even investigated Saturn's rings, considered the problems of Earth's time zones, delved deeply into algebra, and even anticipated Einstein's special theory of relativity. Over the years, his eyesight never improved, and he continued carrying out most of his calculations in his head. When finally transferring his thoughts to paper, he would rarely need to make alterations. On his productivity and originality of insight alone, Poincaré is worthy of mention, especially in respect of creativity, but there's something else very interesting about him, something he stumbled across purely by accident. Poincaré's other passion was geology, of which he gained a degree as a mining engineer and worked for a while as a mining inspector. Although later deciding to pursue an academic career, he remained associated with the French mining industry, becoming Inspector General of Mines in 1910. And it was on a routine geological field trip when he made a remarkable discovery. For 2 weeks, Poincaré had laboured extensively over the problem of fusion functions, complex algebraic equations named after the German mathematician Emanuel Fuchs. Initially, he was infuriated by the equations and concluded that they must be pure conjecture. Determined to prove his point, he set out to establish their fallacy, but he couldn't. As much as he tried to dispel their existence, the possibility of fusion functions wouldn't go away. Conceding that maybe fusion functions were plausible, he decided to do an about-turn and wanted to prove their existence. Initially making some headway, but then hitting a brick wall. Leaving for a field trip the next day with the French School of Mines, he took off his mathematician's hat and put on his geology one. Travelling by bus with other geology enthusiasts, his labours of the past 2 weeks were swiftly forgotten as he became immersed in discussions on geology matters. On their journey, they needed to take a connecting bus to the onward destination. It was while switching buses when Poincaré's foot hit the first step it happened. The solution to fusion functions suddenly, out of the blue, flashed across his mind. The instant I put my foot on the step, the idea came to me, apparently with nothing whatever in my thoughts having prepared me for it, that the transformations which I'd used to define fusion functions were identical to those of non-Euclidean geometry. I did not make the verification. I should not have had the time because once on the bus I resumed an interrupted conversation, but I felt an instant and complete certainty. On returning home I verified the result at my leisure to satisfy my conscience. Several weeks later, when the same thing happened again during an outing to the seaside, Poincaré knew he was onto something. It was not his conscious brain providing the answers, but his subconscious. Later reflecting, sudden illumination is the sign of previous long subconscious work. As a result of these experiences, Poincaré totally altered his work patterns. Instead of spending long periods of time relentlessly hammering away at problems, he started working for short bursts. He was like a bee scouting for pollen, hovering over one flower and then on to the next, never lingering for too long. This was not avoiding the challenges of deeper thinking, but rather Poincaré was deliberately breaking his routines to allow his subconscious mind time to work on a problem. Even though he couldn't control it, he knew that by giving his subconscious space to work would allow the opportunity for fresh insight, and he was right. Aside from his well-documented mathematical genius, Poincaré also showed us a new way of using our mind. Spending long hours on difficult problems is not always the best way to arrive at solutions. Allowing the subconscious to participate in our thinking is an important step to the creative process. Although we have no control over when the answers will come, as Poincaré's experience demonstrated, by allowing the subconscious space to work, you push further than you otherwise could. Sadly, Poincaré died before his time in 1912 in Paris, aged 58 years. This followed an operation in a nursing home where he seemed to have made a good recovery, but suddenly died while dressing to leave. Despite suffering sickness at an early age and eyesight problems throughout life, Poincaré shrugged this off to become a creative, productive powerhouse, leaving an impressive mark. Thanks for watching, and hey, if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe below for more inspiring stories coming up on CTA 90.